No worries.
Alcohol doesn't last long in this house.
Not at all.
No.
It's a good thing they haven't stopped making it yet. Oh yeah, that's what we were. That's what we were at. It was as long as you're handling your life responsibly, and you're drinking in your own home and not being a menace. But then we were talking about your neighbors, and that's when everything went to shit.
It's the mobile home park next to us. We
like to terrorize them once in a while. Keep them on their toes.
We've done some silly stuff on this site when we've been drunk before, and it's hilarious. It is really, really funny.
Stolen a few plant pots. Jumped a few bushes.
I think we're the youngest people here. It's an elderly site. You have to be at least 50, and although I'm getting close to 50 now, when I bought it I was 39, and then they changed the rules years later. I think it's to keep travelers out. But the mobile home park next to us, you only have to be 40 to buy. And before, you used to see children here. There's no children on site anymore.
God's waiting room.
No, it's God. Yeah, it is God's waiting room. And almost everybody here is at least 70 or older. And so people see us, and then we get questioned a lot. Oh, what are you doing here? You bloody live here. But they just don't expect us. But I think also, because I'm a bit older than they think I am, it confuses them a bit. And they think Nick's older than me. 11 years younger than me.
Do you have rehearsal in your joint? I said, do you have rehearsal in your joint?
No, we go to a studio for that because it's too small in my place.
Yeah, and plus our bass player, he's on the other side of London, so we have to. It wouldn't be fair to drag him out all this way all the time.
Yeah, he's all the way in Croydon, which is in like deepest, darkest South London. Yeah.
We try our best to meet in the middle if we can.
Yeah.
We
used to have a clubhouse here, and we thought about using that just for some one-off gigs, just to entertain the residents and to do a rehearsal.
Although during COVID obviously back 2020, we did quite a few live stream gigs from here. We did some out back in the backyard, which drew quite a crowd actually, didn't it?
Yeah, we had quite a few of the residents come and just sort of stand around and listen, and it was good fun.
It's kind of crazy how much all of our lives changed as musicians from COVID. Like, we went from being on the road 200 plus days a year to I haven't played a live gig in I don't know how long. And I just remember when it first hit, we were all like, oh, we're going to be off the road for like, 2 weeks, maybe a month. And I went and I made that Goulardi video in my house. And for YouTube, for the song, because I just put the record out and I was already getting gigs booked for, pretty much everywhere. And then everything just kind of went, nope. So I was like, I guess I'll take this downtime, and I made a video for the song for the upcoming record, and it's like the record ended up going nowhere because of COVID.
2020, we were finally grounded. We were gaining our momentum.
We had a huge year, didn't we?
Yeah, 2020 would have been a really, really big year for us. And so one thing about England is I don't take female-fronted bands seriously at all. Unless you're Giselle, they don't want you. They don't care about you, and they think that you're all exactly the same, not understanding that many of us are not the same at all. And so when we finally started making waves and people were noticing us, COVID hit. And then I was really depressed about it afterwards, because I just thought everyone's forgotten about us now, and they think we're just a flash in the pan. Like, to be fair, there are a lot of female-fronted bands who don't have, they're just singers, and that's it. They don't have a full band, and they can do a gig with whatever musicians they can round up. Whereas with me, this time round, it was, I'm on drums, so I've got to be there. This guy is my partner, but he's also, in my opinion, and a few people will agree, he's one of the best guitarists in England. And I've got my bass player to back me. And so we're a band. We don't, pick and choose musicians. We're the same unit the whole time, like any other band. But a lot of the lady singers out there, they can just compile any other band that they want to. And and do the same covers over and over again. Whereas when you're a proper band, you're writing originals and you're doing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I was panicking about that a little bit. And then 2021, it seemed all a bit rushed. There was a backlog of bands trying to get back into the festivals again. And so we were getting a lot of pub gigs and social club gigs, which wasn't a bad thing because it reminded people of who we were and the stuff that we were doing. Because also we'd written a lot of songs during the lockdown as well. And it seemed to work out all right. It seemed to work out.
I think it does almost feel like we had to start again almost to an extent, probably like yourself as well. Not, just get back on track. We had some huge. We was due to in 2020. We was due to open up for the Delta Bombers in Vegas. And that was the one we really want to cancel. We was adamant we was going to go and do it. We said, listen, we're going to come to Vegas anyway, regardless. And then obviously international travel got cancelled, so it wasn't happening. So
no, I think that was
they just pinged off the ball, didn't they?
Yeah, that was our worst. Was just knowing that the Delta Bombers actually asked us personally, "Do you want to come open for us?" And they were scheduled to do Viva. I was there DJing and MCing, but we weren't scheduled to play, so it was all right for us. No, they weren't playing because they played the year before, didn't they? Yeah, they headlined the car show the year before. So that year, I was only on contract to MC and DJ, and I think we were going to do Sweet Peas. Yeah, that's right. We were going to do Sweet Peas, Hooch and Smooch, and Reverend Martini's All Night Jumpin' Showcase. So on those two events within Viva, you're not actually contracted with Viva. So when you get a contract to do Viva, you can't play within a certain amount of days and miles of the actual event.
Yeah, you don't want to take away from the draw.
Exactly. It's not as if it's going to take away from Viva. No one's going to miss out going to Viva Las Vegas.
If your plan was to go to Viva, it's not like you're like, well, I saw this one band about 30 miles from Vegas, so I'm good. Things you'll never hear.
And then and also we were meant to Cherry Rat was going to be playing as well, and it would have been nice to kind of see her and hang out with her. And I don't know if you know much about Cherry Rat. She lost her partner recently, and she's devastated by it. And it just would have been nice to kind of get to know her before all the chaos kicked off with her. But then when Viva sparked off again, and Delta Bombers were doing a gig the day before, they ignored us the whole time. I just thought,
cheers for that,
what have we done? What have we done? So that's okay, because I went back in September to do a gig, which we were anticipating US travel would be open for everybody by then, but it wasn't. I have a US passport. Now, I say to him all the time, if you would have married me when you promised me you would have, he would have.
I think that the tour that you have planned on for the States, you're hitting some pretty cool places. Who's some of the bands you're going to be playing with?
So, yeah, sorry.
You know Jude's better than I do.
Yeah. So,
there's always one.
in LA, we're not quite sure who we're playing with yet. It's going to be a Wild Records gig. So obviously, I've asked. I won't say publicly now who I've asked for some of our favourites, but we're hoping for that. We head to Vegas and we're playing with a local band from Vegas called The Hideaway, who are real fantastic guys.
They're absolutely brilliant as a band and such nice guys.
Fantastic people all round. We played with them last year, and this year we're playing at the Golden Tiki, which is obviously a iconic venue which we're really looking forward to. San Diego, we are playing with San Diego-based bands. One called The Dukes, blues-based band, really fantastic, great guys again.
We played with them last year when we did our tour. Yeah.
And also a band called Chicken Bone Slim, who they've got a guitarist playing, a lady called Laura Chavez.
Yo, she rips.
You've heard her, yeah. She's nominated to like one of the best blues guitarists
she's
in the world.
Just killer. Just killer picker.
It's going to be one of those nights where I'm just going to want to burn my guitar and smash it up after I've watched her play. Like, I'm not playing. That's it. I'm not going on. And then we go to.
After that, we're in Brawley, California.
That's just ourselves. Just
us.
Yeah. And then we go to Lake Havasu to a rockabilly reunion.
Lake Havasu is the rockabilly reunion.
Yeah.
And I think I reached out to them, and then they responded and said, yeah, we'll book you. Can you come on this date? And I thought, this was like 6-7 months ago. And I said, yeah, okay. So I would like to think, I remember the first year we played Viva Las Vegas, and the year before was the 20th Viva. We had a fantastic time there, and I took Nick for his birthday because he had gone the year before with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So angry and upset and jealous. I was just stuck at home the whole time. And the following year, I bought us tickets and return flights and hotel, and I booked everything. So we went there, and I had met Tom Ingram for the first time, and that was when he had just invested into the internet radio station that I was then DJing on. We now are on a different station, but Nick says, go and speak to him. And I spoke to him, and then, just said hi a couple of times. And then after that Viva, months later, he put a shout out saying, looking for more bands for Viva 21. And everybody was posting on the thread on Facebook, but I emailed and I sent a private message and said, hi, do you remember me? I'm one of your DJs. Would you consider booking us? Replied back within the hour and said, I'd love to have you, but you're unknown in this country. What can you do to build up your reputation? And I said, we will promote it to the hilt, because not many the Roots UK bands were going over. You had the bigger UK bands like Graham Fenton and Restless, the Jets. The smaller bands rarely had a chance to go over. Just the ones that maybe had record labels. And we've never had a record label with this band. So he says, you really need to work on yourselves and then come on over. And then when we did our first gig, we only had, I think, 2 originals at that time. But they took a chance, and we did Sweet Pea's Hooch and Smooch to open with. It went down an absolute storm. Everybody loved it. And we ended up picking up a Swedish agent, piggybacked off of that.
Yes.
And then we performed in the Bienville afterwards. And then following year, well, a few months afterwards, Tom Ingram emailed us and said, listen, I've had about a dozen emails in regards to you guys, and it's all positive, and everyone wants you to come back. Would you like to come back next year? We said, who doesn't want to go back to Viva Las Vegas?
Especially if you get the email inviting you, not you asking.
Yeah.
But I think, was that the Stray Cats?
Yeah, that was
so
your
the
Stray
worst
Cats.
thing. So I'm a Stray Cats fan. Judge me or not.
No, my wife is Stray Cats fan, probably number 1. She absolutely adores Brian Setzer. Our house is decked in Stray Cats memorabilia. Right here's Vintage Magazine, and she has a tattoo of the logo. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Brian Setzer, Stray Cats tattoo.
Yeah. Tamara is she's a nut for that stuff. I guess that means we're gonna have to do some gigs if you come to Germany. Uh-oh.
Yes.
We would absolutely love
it.
A little birdie told me once that there's a chance that Tamara and I may be in England in October for a friend's wedding, so we can see what happens.
Yes, because we don't have anything booked in October at this point. Yeah.
We can sort something out. Yeah,
we could definitely sort something out.
Yeah. We can see what happens, but or it might just be going on holiday for holiday's sake. But maybe y'all could show us around some.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you guys, but you're probably the same. We don't tend to really have holidays anymore. It kind of everywhere we always work. It's fun. You get to see places, but you travel and like say, for example, we're coming to the States next month, which should be a holiday, and it will be. I'm going to enjoy it. but also we are there, to kind of work as well. So
I'm looking at the world through a windshield.
Every time
that's the one.
In fact, Germany is the only place that we see family, but we have. So my mum is from a tiny village in Germany. It's Allendibach am Büdingen. So the biggest major town is called Büdingen, which is probably about, I want to say about 45 kilometers away from Frankfurt. So it's in the Hessian area. Everybody knows each other. And and I love my German family. They're absolutely brilliant. My cousin Renee, who I'm quite close to, and his wife Nicole, he's really into glam metal. So
God,
he's about 52 odd now. You'd never guess this, but he's about 6.5 foot tall, with hair past his waist, jet black, and walks around this village in PVC trousers. And he looks amazing.
Yeah.
All my cousins are into heavy metal and industrial and hard rock, and you just would not expect it. But the funny thing is, you can always tell a Vittish when you go into this town. We all have the same nose. I've got the same nose as my mum. So yeah, I've got this incredible family in Germany, and if I'm ever around Frankfurt, they all come out, and it's absolutely amazing. Really, really amazing.
Yeah,
but that's the only time we have actually gone to see family, but they allow us to have it a holiday. And I'm sure you know, when you're in Germany, if you're in your partner's hometown, you have to see everybody. Coffee and cake every afternoon. And if you say no, they get really offended by it. And I remember when I reconnected with my German family after, I don't know, 10, 15 years, everybody wanted you to stay at their house. And it's like, who do you decide whose house to stay at? And it was really hard. So every time my mum goes back to her hometown, she doesn't tell anybody. She tells her closest friend, and then she just turns up, because then everyone's going to say, why are you not staying with me? Why are you not here? And she's like, oh, it's just, just on an off chance I'm going to come and see you. They every time we do go to Germany, they allow us to have our time, have family time. Family time is at night when the bar opens up and we all get, oh, I'll tell you.
Yeah, don't swear.
I thought Mexicans could drink. Germans can drink as well.
I'm just in love. Well, one of my favorite beers has always been a dark German lager. And now just having it in large quantities at any given time for not much money is quite nice.
Sure.
Where are you in Germany right now?
I'm in Saarland. I'm on the border of France and Luxembourg. And
okay, so you're further west.
Yeah, we're about as west as you can get, really. It's great because we have the mixture of French and German cooking.
My one of my favorite dishes that my mum ever cooked for me when I was growing up, and I still love it when I go home, is goulash. Mm-hmm. The way she makes it, it's like a thick brown gravy, and it's made with pork and with beef. You pour it over noodles, and every time I've had goulash in places, it's paprika soup. It's not what my mum makes it. Then the 2 times I'd gone back to my mum's hometown and had my cousin Ollie's wife Inga make the goulash, and then Renee's wife Nicole made goulash. It's exactly as my mum would make it. And I think goulash is regional. So everybody in my mum's hometown of Allendibach make the same exact goulash, and it's absolutely amazing. That was to this day, one of my favorite dishes that my mum makes for us. This guy who doesn't really eat pork, my mum made it, and he had no idea. When I went into nursing, I actually considered going into vet nursing. Mm-hmm. And it would have been good because I love animals so much, especially cats. I'm not afraid to admit I've struggled with mental health issues for decades.
I have as well.
And my cats are my comfort, my real comfort. Not to say he's not, but when he's not here, I've got my cats. to get me through everything. That year and a half ago, we lost one of our babies. He had cancer, and he struggled for years. And all through the pandemic, I couldn't get him treated. He just kept giving me steroids and antibiotics, and that seemed to kind of carry him through. And then finally, in May of 2021, his body gave up, and it was horrendous. And so we had to take him to the emergency vet at 2 a.m, and the outcome wasn't good. And the vet who was there, and she came out, and he was, because he'd had a stroke, and he worked in nursing, and seeing all the different stages of people passing, he was fighting. You know, he was angry and growling and biting, and she says, "Be careful, he might bite you. Try not to kiss his face because he could bite you and it could be dangerous." And she was absolutely right. I've dealt with human patients like that. And she made that decision for us on what to do next. I didn't have to say, let him go. And I'll tell you, when he did go, I sobbed for weeks. I could not be a vet and be put in that situation to make that decision, because I love animals just far too much. And as horrible as it sounds, I find it easier to see people off than to see pets. You know, animals are just incredible.
They're completely innocent.
Yeah. Hansi, no.
Until they knock the laptop off of the table.
Well, that's just curiosity. That's what we chalk that up to, because the cats they have that natural asshole-ish curiosity where they're like, I wonder if gravity still works. Let's see.
Our cat that we lost in 2021, he was good at testing gravity.
Is that we're just going to start calling it from now on? Anytime we see cats doing asshole shit, it's just, they're just testing gravity. It's fine.
Yeah.
Isaac Newton.
Newton is a great name for a cat.
It is actually. It's true. Yeah. And too quickly, this popped into my head to turn it back to the music about the bands that are supporting us. Yes, yeah. We go for them. Booze Bombs from Germany are going to be at Havasu. And I don't know where.
We played with Booze Bombs in Viva.
No, we met them. They didn't play. But ironically, their bass player is our friend from England who's moved from a guy called Brandon, young guy. Far too talented for my liking, but he lives in Germany now. He's moved from England to Germany, and he plays with the Booze Bombs. So I said it's going to be quite a strange meeting with him when we're in Lake Havasu. You know, especially for myself being a local boy from around this way.
Right.
It's going to be quite strange to see another chap from the same kind of area. So it's going to be great.
But in a completely different place. Yeah, you guys. Yeah. You'll be able to have jokes about various, like childhood television programs that you experienced and stuff. That's one thing one of my English friends love to do is talk about English childhood television programs that nobody else gets, to make sure that they can make fun of it and you can't.
You know what? England, it's so funny. So when I moved to England, people were talking about things that went on here in the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. But it was only in England. It never got outside of England, yet England thought the rest of the world knew. It's a bit like Americans. We think everybody knows what we do.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the truth?
But, it's mostly like soaps and prime time, people know American, but children's programs were entirely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You and I watched The Electric Company growing up, didn't we?
Yeah, Electric Company, Sesame Street, Fat Albert.
So, yeah, I don't remember if Sesame Street was as big here as it was in the States, but that was the staple of our childhood because it was television, but it was educational television. And same with the Electric Company. Mm-hmm. I loved the Electric Company. That was one of my favorites. And then some of the Hanna-Barbera stuff didn't quite make it over here. Love Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, yeah, I mean, any of those old cartoons where they just run past the same table and lamp about 30 times, I'm a fan.
Lazy work.
Yeah.
I love that.
Max Fleischer, this is how geeky I am. So Max Fleischer was the first one to do that on the old Betty Boop cartoons.
Yeah.
So they would have a reel running in the background over and over while their animated people in the front just kept walking and walking.
Uh-huh.
And nobody really noticed the background. They did that on the Flintstones.
Just so it shows you that the old saying that don't work hard or work smart still kind of.
Every time that they did it in the Flintstones, I always wondered, how big is this house?
Yeah.
Over Christmas, because things have changed so much. The funniest meme I ever saw was the Flintstones celebrating Christmas, and everyone said, "How does that work?"
But I guess the whole dinosaurs idea is going to kind of ruin that one anyway, isn't it?
Absolutely brilliant. He makes these hilarious shorts, and it's him playing all these different characters. There's Confused.com, the radio advert. He's now the voice of that. So he did this whole thing about pagans celebrating the solstice, and then the Christians come in and said, "No, you got to get out of here. We're gonna burn you at the stake." And then it's this whole back and forth for a little while, and finally the pagans are gone. Christians are there celebrating Christmas, and suddenly Santa Claus rolls in and says, "Right, one of you has got to go." It's hard to explain, but it's really, really funny.
Oh, no, I appreciate the subtlety of it. Those are the best jokes when you have to stop and go, Did they just, they did. Did I didn't. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, exactly.
Bam! It's like the boomerang effect. I love it.
World's such a crazy place now. I think since COVID, a lot of people just had too much time on their hands to sit at home and think about stuff. I mean, we're no different. We just turned to alcohol.
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing, and it's a bad thing because it's allowed a lot of chance for some serious introspection for a lot of different people too. Because we were so used to life being a certain way. Now it's like, how do you cope with life being completely different now? I think it really tested a lot of our mettle, not just as musicians, but I think just people that were doing art in general, because I'm not going to have the chance to continue doing what I've been doing, but I can find a way to do kind of what I do and maybe something else. And, I can't think of how many different people came up with different artistic mediums just to get them through COVID.
Yes, it's true.
It was, a lot of us spent a lot of time writing, so it wasn't just all drinking.
And it also made you probably appreciate what you'd lost to an extent. I mean, now since we managed to get back playing live again, it's just, we just make sure we make the most of every single.
Oh yeah. Just
whereas before, maybe I'd be like, I don't really want to go and do this one this weekend. Or
you just kind of phone it in.
I want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, those nights where you're, you got body aches or food poisoning, you just want to phone it in. I mean, I can think of so many gigs that I've done where I was so incredibly ill, but you would never know it. You'd never know it. And that reminds me of one of the best shows I saw from somebody who was completely just sick as a dog was Lars Fredriksson and the Bastards. And we were outside waiting in line and smoking, just doing the thing. And he came out and everyone's like, "Oh shit, hey, cool, it's Lars," this, that, and the other. And, he's talking to everyone. He's like, "Just stay away, I'm really sick. I don't want to get anybody else sick." And I'm like, "Hey, we get it. That's really cool of you." And then he goes on stage and you'd have never thought. Like, looking at him, I mean, when someone's sick, like the color, like, what I'm talking about. I mean, we're all getting over it right now as we speak. But there's something about when you hit stage that all that goes away. And now with COVID being what it did, and now us having the chance to play live again, it seems like that wouldn't even register anymore. It's like, I'm sick. Oh, fuck it. As long as I don't die, I got a show to play.
Exactly. As long as I don't die, that's the main thing.
The week that we went into lockdown, we had a gig on the Saturday night.
Was that our last one?
That was our very last one, just before 5 days before lockdown. The country was gearing towards that, and we knew this. There's a place called the Corner Pin down in Wimbledon. Yeah, not far from Wimbledon. And then the following day was Boppolina's in Camden on the Spring Ball. And Boppolina's is the biggest record hop in Europe, in all the EU and in England.
Probably, to be fair.
Yeah, because he gets 1,000+ people into his record hops. This is DJ Strop. And it's a fantastic place to catch up with friends and people you haven't seen in ages. And they come from all over the world to come to Strops's record hop. It's just really, really good. So we did our gig, and I remember a couple days before, the promoter said, "Oh, the venue's going to cancel because they think no one's going to turn up." I said, no, please, 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 just try and convince them it's the last gig you're probably going to have before this lockdown, if we go into lockdown, because it was up in the air. No one really knew. But they said, okay, it's going ahead. And it was a good paid gig as well. And we turned up and did our sound check. I think we did a video message for somebody. Yeah. Came back out, and the whole place was rammed with people.
So many people.
And we thought, wow, this is incredible. They come to see us? Well, yes and no.
Yeah, maybe.
They were all going to Boppolina's. They all came from the EU. So people from France and Germany and Scandinavia and Belgium and Holland, Italy. They were looking for a gig, saw Rockabilly, came down to our gig. And then the next day we saw them all at Boppolina's. And I think Boppolina's at that time had about 800 people turn up because so many things were so uncertain. A lot of people came from around the country. A lot of people came from Europe. It wasn't as big as it normally was, but it was still really good fun.
Yep.
And then 3 days later...
It was the last hurrah for a few months.
3 days later, we went into that lockdown. And then Monday, Tuesday, I was starting to feel a little bit unwell. Then we went into lockdown. It turned out I had COVID.
Teaches us for pushing it.
Yeah.
To the last minute.
Yeah. Right when you're like.
To be fair, it wasn't as bad as other people had it. The only reason why I knew it was COVID is I had achy joints. You know, you're really, really hungover and dehydrated, and your joints and your muscles ache beyond words. And
I don't know about that feeling.
Shut up. And your head is just pounding. I had that for about 3 days, and then the following week, I lost my sense of taste and smell. And that was before it was kind of part of the process. And then I realized I probably had COVID. And that was the last hurrah for Lady Luck, Lexy, and the Riverside Boys for a year and a half.
But we pushed it to the max, and we went out with a bang. So that's
yeah, we went out with a bang. You know what? I think everybody did. And there was huge reports and newscasts and photos of people in major cities over the weekend, going crazy.
And I think also as obviously the lockdown continued, we was actually quite lucky that although we lost so many gigs, you know, probably like yourself, we lost, you know, dozens and dozens, but we actually managed to pick up quite a few as well. It was very different. Everyone had to wear masks and everyone had to sit down. It had to be outside, or it had to be, but we still did okay, didn't we? We obviously not nowhere near what we was doing, but it was just a different time. And I just, as I said earlier, it just makes you more grateful and appreciative of what we've got back to and what we're doing now, really. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the first gig that we were asked to do was in a massive park down in southwest London, and it was all outdoor seating. Now, I remember we promoted it, and then the tickets sold out because it was through the council. And it didn't go down well with a lot of local musicians. And people were trying to report the events.
We thought the police was going to turn up at one point, didn't we?
Yeah. And it's just... And so I'm going to say something quite controversial.
Oh, no, what are you going to say first?
So we know some of the people who had reported it to the police. They were people who didn't think we deserved to get as far as we have, and therefore moaned about it on social media. We saw it and we knew who it was geared towards because it was so obvious. And So we were very keen to reply and say, it's like you're doing, like you're busking in Central Park in New York, which was kind of half true and half not. It wasn't a park as big as Central Park, but it was a public park. It was run by the council. People had, what's the best way to describe it? So you had a membership to, what is it in England?
It's like a society type.
Yeah,
like a society.
It's like historical society or nature society. Not naturist, a public park society.
Like a preservation society kind of situation.
Yeah. So, and those were the people who were coming. So it was all outdoors. Everyone brought blankets. There was food available. People brought picnics and chairs and drinks. And so it was one of these things. And a handful of people reported it and moaned about it on social media. Again, they were people who had been in the music industry a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't feel we deserved to have that, and thought they should have had it instead. But,
interesting.
But yeah, especially in Essex, we were the first band to get back out there. Not because we were running on the cheap, but we were available on those times, on those dates.
And I think we was just so nervous about losing the momentum that we'd started to gain. We just wanted to get back out there as soon as possible and just have a presence again, really.
Yeah. Just, to be out there, to keep the name going.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And because of the not reputation, but just the prejudice against a lot of female-fronted bands in this country, I was willing to fight that tooth and nail to get back out there and do what we were doing from the beginning, and to remind people who we are and what we have to offer.
Yeah, I probably like yourself as well. If you want to get to get to where you want to be, you have to work hard. You have to put there's a lot of shows we do that always think, not all the most favourable shows you'd like to do, but we do them on a looking at the bigger picture to get to where we want to be eventually. So we
lockdown was
it was hard. It was
a challenge, and when I was younger and people talk about getting through the Second World War, I get it. It might be, again, controversial to compare the two, but we went through 2 years of uncertainty. During those war times, so many people were so uncertain what their futures are going to be. On so many levels in England, our government was really squashing all of us who had worked in entertainment for a living, telling us we need to look for better jobs, different jobs. In that this is a hobby for us, not realizing this was how we paid our mortgages, fed our children. And it was soul destroying living in England at that time. This government has been so bad the last 12 years. It's been awful. And they just don't take people like us seriously. But, you've got to think about, it's not just musicians playing your local pub gig. What about the people who are writing the music for your news broadcasts where the government is making their announcements? The people running the lighting and the cameras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They all have to go through those same entertainment schools that we possibly could have gone through to do acting, music, dance, all those things. And the government just said, we need to retrain as IT technicians, or we should be delivery drivers and work at stack shelves at the supermarkets. And it's like, well, we spent half of our lives in a career that was lucrative until this pandemic. And I never thought in my lifetime I could see something like this happen. And but nobody could.
I
think also being a child of the 70s and 80s, 80s was the decade of excess.
Yeah.
That was the decade of yuppies, and we were just spending money like it was nothing. And it went through so many fads and fashions and trends and toys and games. Gaming was just becoming big. Designer cars, mobile phones were brand new back then. Who knew it was going to be like this in, 2020? Am I showing my age?
Oh, no.
I mean,
one thing I always say about the 80s is it was a decade of originality. There were so many different kinds of music that just came to be that were never a thing. So many different kinds of fashion. How many different kinds of like action, drama, suspense, thriller? How many different kinds of movies started to come out? And then when the 90s came, that just polished everything. And the 90s were just...
Trial of the 90s.
Oh, yeah. When you were talking about industrial and metal and all that, I mean, I'm still to this day. I mean, I love every genre of music that you can possibly think of.
One thing I say about the 90s is that some of the best industrial bands really hit it big for me in the 1990s. I took Nick to his first industrial gig like about 7 years ago.
It'll be the same again.
We went to see Cubanate and Pig.
Oh, I love Pig so much.
You know, so I told you the industrial band I used to be part of, Inertia, their first album, just before I joined, was produced by Raymond Watts.
Oh, fantastic.
And for me, even though I played with Inertia for decades after, that is still my favorite album, just in terms of production, because Raymond Watts has got such an ear.
Yeah.
Then, so I took him to Slimelight in London once. After we played this gig in Camden, he's like, "Oh, what do I wear?" I said, "Just dress normal." When we got to the door at Slimelight, they said, you know, this is like goth. And I said, "Yeah, this is my roots. Don't worry." Told her who I was. She's like, "Oh my God, yeah, okay, come on in." And then he was worried about what people were going to be like. He was kind of into the music. You liked Pig. You didn't like... I love Cubanate because they're more electro. Pig is a bit more metal industrial.
Yeah.
And then I'm introduced him to some friends who I'd known for decades. And all they wanted to talk about was gardening and football. And I said, "See? They're not like weird people. They're normal people my age."
Who likes football?
It all comes full circle because last I saw Pig, afterwards I was talking guitar with Steve White, and we were talking Danny Gatton. So he's like, I play in a lot of these bands that, chug chug. He's like, and I love playing that stuff. He's like, but I listen to stuff like Danny Gatton, and I'm just like, wow. Just
I don't think you can get much better than Danny Gatton, to be honest, can you really? There's a guy from the UK, or he's actually from Wales. You may have heard of him. His name's James Oliver. He works so hard. I think he does like 350
gigs a year. Yeah,
like that.
Literally.
He doesn't take a day off. And his guitar playing is just out of this world, phenomenal. He went on a US tour last year. Did only a small tour, but he actually played Danny Gatton's guitar on the tour. The guy who organised it sorted it out, so he played this guitar, and it was he did it justice, to be honest with you. He really did a great. So it's just out of this world.
You've been playing for how long, man?
Say it again.
You've been playing for how long?
Self.
Yes. For guitar.
Making me feel old now, but it's got to be getting not far off for nearly 30 years now. Really, I guess I started when I was about. I'm 37 years old now, and I started when I was about 9 years old. So yeah, 28 years or so. Not saying I had a few years out in the wilderness where I kind of left it and I went away. So that was great. Yeah, that was a real kind of kick-started me back into it. I think I kind of lost my way with the guitar a little bit. I kind of maybe going out of it a little bit and thinking maybe I might find something else, but that kind of kicked me back into it and reignited my love for it, really, which is cool.
I think that anybody who says, "Gretsch, that's the guitar for me," every time that you pick it up, there's a certain mindset that will come to you. I feel it's the same way with a Telecaster. If you study certain players, now we've known the Telecaster's been out forever, and how many different kind of bands, have made music on it. But there's certain guitar players that when people who study guitar, when they see a guitar that they think of, and they get in that mindset when they pick it up. I can't pick up a SG without instantly thinking Tony Iommi or Angus.
Yeah.
And I know that I've seen you play Gretsch. Is that mostly what you play is Gretches?
No, yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been a hollow body kind of guy. I've always I like hollow bodies, and I did have a actually picked up a Telecaster, first Telecaster I've ever owned. I picked up in Vegas a few years ago, and I picked up from the car show, and it'd been pinstriped, and I just looked at it. It's the first guitar I've ever seen. I thought, wow, I've got to take that home with me. So kind of sorted it out, and it turned out it'd been pinstriped by this guy called Wild Bill, an American guy, and he was very, very famous on the hot rod circuit and the classic car as a pinstriper. Anyway, so I told him I was taking it back to England, and he was over the moon with it. And he said, next time you come back, bring me some photos. So I went away. I played it like mad when I came home. I kind of took a bit of a folder back with me, showing this is where I play the guitar. I've taken your guitar all over the world to an extent. But sadly, we went back and he'd actually passed away a few months before. I was devastated. I remember getting a bit of a tear in my eye. I think, oh wow, I've been so excited to come and show him what I've been doing with the guitar.
Right.
Anyway, and it was sad. But the guy actually asked about the guitar, and it quadrupled in value. And I said, well, no, I'm not gonna sell it. So I've got a huge affinity for that guitar. I love it, but because we're only a 3-piece, I love to play the Gretsch because it's got a Bixby on it. They kind of can kill a couple of seconds of dead space. If you're for songs, just instead of having nothing silence, it's always nice just to have that something just to ring out a little bit of just to fill a little bit of a gap. And I just I've been playing the Gretsch I play now. It's a newer model from Gretsch, but it's basically like a Duo Jet size, but it looks like a 6120. So it's small, but it for the all want and purpose, it looks like a 6120 on the front. So it's pretty cool, and it's worked hard, and it took a bit of time to kind of
break it in.
Basically, It needed a lot of hard work to get there. After a lot of effort and a lot of love, it's done. It's all right. It's all I play now, really. I mean, I always take a couple of guitars with me to gigs, obviously for a backup, but I think I'll only ever play that Gretsch from now on. For as long as it lasts, I'll play that. I'll continue to play that, really.
When I first met him, he was playing this massive Ibanez hollow body. And at the time, no one was really playing them, and no one was doing rockabilly on them because Ibanez is kind of synonymous with people like Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen. And to have someone do rockabilly.
Yeah, I had one of those hollow-bodied Ibanezes when I was in meteorology school.
It's like an AF-75 or something like that. Great guitars.
Oh yeah, I mean it's great. It did the job. You know what I mean? It's a great guitar. I know that you've been playing for a minute. How'd you get into it, Lexi?
Rockabilly or just music in general?
Music, I mean, both of y'all met, obviously, from playing music. So I know that you played prior to meeting Nick and y'all met together. But, it'd be kind of interesting to hear how that happened.
So I had always wanted to be a musician since I was a child. And I'll tell you I can tell you exactly when I wanted to be a performer. I was maybe 6-7 years old, and we'd gone to a yard sale, and I saw this record player. It was white on top, yellow on the bottom. It took batteries where you could plug it in. It also had AM radio, because back then all we had was AM radio. It also had a microphone plug-in, so you could sing along to anything on the radio or anything playing on the record. Used to play, it was ABBA's Greatest Hits, but it was the original one that was a fold-out record. There was 2 songs I used to sing all the time, Ring and Nina Pretty Ballerina. Those were my 2 favorite songs by ABBA when I was that age. And I used to sing along to it in these little microphones. And I've always been a really outgoing child. I was never shy by any means. I was always really mouthy, really brazen.
Hasn't changed.
I'm just like my mother. This is really scary. My mum, oh my God. That's the German in me. Brazen, loud. Thing is, the combination of Mexican and German, I'm a fantastic cook.
Oh yeah.
I'm a good cook. I'm a good housekeeper as well. But the German side made me loud and brazen and wanting to do things my way all the time. It was my way or the highway. I'm just like my mum. And it was something I always wanted to do. And when I was about 10, 11 years old, I told my dad I wanted to play bass guitar because John Taylor from Duran Duran played bass guitar. Duran Duran have always been my favorite band all my life. Even now, I still love and adore them.
Mm-hmm.
My dad said, I don't know anything about bass guitar. You can learn to play guitar first. All right. So saved up my money for the summer and all my chores and excess jobs and bought a guitar. It's the one that's still at my parents' house, that blue and white one, Avila, and this little amp. And I didn't have any lessons. There was no internet back then. So I just had a book to learn from. So I learned to play all the chords. Never learned how to progress those chords because I didn't have an instructor. I didn't know what to do. I could play A, B, C, D, E, whatever. Didn't know how to make a song. And for whatever reason, I can listen to things now and kind of know where it's going. But when I was 11 years old, it just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And then I kind of gave up on it. And something I always knew I could do was just like drum along to things and sing. And when I was, I want to say, it's either my 6th or 7th birthday, it must have been my 7th, I was given 2 singles for my birthday. It was the Go-Go's, We Got the Beat, and Our Lips Are Sealed. They were the first band that I ever saw that had a female drummer, all female musicians, and I thought, wow, this is the most amazing thing ever. And then after the Go-Go's came the Bangles. And of course, I was a child of the 80s, so I was watching this, and Debbie Peterson, their first single was Going Down to Liverpool. And they were grooming Debbie Peterson to be the lead singer because they wanted to have a lead singer and drummer. I never learned this until later on when the internet came about and they did interviews and said, yeah, we wanted Debbie Peterson to be the lead singer. She had a great voice. It was quite deep and it carried well because Susanna Hoffs was cute and had the higher pitched voice. The kind of record industry said, oh, let's have her be the lead singer. Anyway, I watched Debbie Peterson mostly, not so much Gina Shock from the Go-Go's, but I watched Debbie Peterson sing and play everything she did, and I mimicked a lot of what she had done. So when I was about 13, I had enough money to buy a drum set, and then I would put headphones on to the stereo, listen to all my favorite bands, and just drum along to what they were drumming along to. I said, yeah, that's it. I'm going to be a drummer. And then, of course, I heard what every female musician hears. Nobody wants a female drummer. There's no market for a female drummer. And it's like that with every, I think, instrument that women want to try and play. But the thing is, I wanted to sing and I wanted to play drums at the same time. And everyone says, no, you're never going to make it. Nobody wants
that. And I think, obviously, you did it in your previous band, of the industrial band, but
yeah.
It kind of came about initially when this band started. We had a drummer. Alexis just was a singer.
I just wanted to be a singer at that point because I had been drumming for Inertia for nearly 20 years and thought, I'm kind of tired of being in the background. I really want to come forward, and I always thought I was a halfway decent singer anyway. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be a singer in a rock and roll band.
We had such a nightmare with drummers. We just had like a great guys, but it just never kind of worked out. It was a huge turnover of drummers. At the end, we just decided that, Lex decided
I was going to just go
back
to it.
For it, but I think it's worked out.
What's funny is that our bass player, when I said, I'll just have to go back to drumming, and I think he had like phoned you a message. You said, I don't know about this. He had no idea of my background of all these world tours I'd done as just a drummer. That's all I was just a drummer. I did, in Inertia, I did sing a few songs. I remember, not our first tour, but our second tour, and we had done a song called Harlequin. It's still one of my favorite songs I'd done with Inertia. It was a 3-part harmony, and that song, like Industrial, everything's on a backing track. So we kept that on the backing track. I came forward, sang the harmony with the lead singer and our then guitarist at the time, I call Mark Barrett, and everybody loved it. And that was when the internet was kind of new, and we were getting people emailing saying, "Oh, Alexis is great. Can she sing a few more songs?" And we were getting a lot of compliments and a lot of emails. What was really nice is that in industrial, it's very much, well, like a lot of music and certain types of music, it's very male orientated. So a lot of women were saying, we kind of feel we can connect with industrial now because there's a girl coming forward singing and drumming and then singing backing vocals, and they really liked that. So it was hard for me to get the band to let me come and sing a few more songs. Eventually, each album went along. I did 1 song, 2 songs, 3 songs, 4 songs. And then it turned out whenever I did the live stuff, the lead singer and I would kind of swap. So I would come down and sing and he would play the drums. And then I'd just go back to my normal drumming and backing vocals after that. But it was kind of nice for the first time being recognized as a musician, as a female musician, a credible female musician.
Right.
One of the highlights of playing with Inertia is I got a phone call on my landline, not mobile, but a landline. And I heard this voice say, "Hi, can I speak to Alexis, please?" And I said, "Speaking." He said, "Hey, this is Tony James from Sig Sig Sputnik. Have you got some time?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, sorry to bother you. You came as a high recommendation. We're looking for a couple of female drummers to kind of kick off Sig Sig Sputnik again." I went, wow. I had posters of them in my room when I was a kid. Now the lead singer, the bass player, asked me to come play drums in his band. And at the time, I was the only female electro drummer in the UK.
Oh.
And that's what put me forward.
That's cool.
And yeah, it was very cool. You can find that there is live video footage of me doing this on the Portuguese National Lottery show with Sig Sig Sputnik. You can find it on YouTube. It's brilliant.
You're going to have to send me the link and I'll put it in the description and everybody will be able to see it.
Oh, gosh, yes. And
if I find if you haven't played on a Portuguese National Lottery, then you haven't lived.
It was my first experience of being credited, although it was lip synced the whole time.
Yeah, playback. It's national television. What can you expect?
Yeah, it was a different time and a different place, and when you look at it,
wobbly sets behind you.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. I was much chubbier then, but it was such a great experience. It just said to me, all these words in my head and voices saying, "You're never going to make it as a female drummer. Nobody wants female drummers." And then I had a lucrative career with Inertia. We had some fantastic tours. We had some fantastic album sales. We did some great supports. We supported Gary Newman on a few tours. We supported KMFDM on a few tours. It's just been brilliant. We had an album produced by Raymond Watts from Pig.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the first guitarist that we had with Inertia, and him and I butted heads. I didn't like him at all. Very sadly, he passed away some decades ago just from excess. He was a guy who wrote music for Snow Patrol, and he had I think he had a #1 single with an artist called Gina G. Remember Gina G?
Who Are Just a Little Bit.
Yeah. He co-wrote that song, Who Are Just a Little Bit. And then he co-wrote the song Harlequin with my ex-lead singer, and that was a song that kind of put me on the map as a vocalist. So are
you going to be in Vegas in April?
I don't think so, because I know that right now I'm trying to finish up my German class is really what my main focus is.
You need that for residency.
Yeah, you gotta have it. Even though I'm married. But it's a good thing because they want you to know how to be able to make a phone call in case of an emergency. They want you to know how to contact, the bank if you need to, go grocery shopping. Just, you need to be able to get around, and not everybody speaks English, which is actually a lie in my case, because every time that they hear my American accent try to speak German, they just instantly start speaking English to me. And I'm like, this is not helping my tutelage in the German language. But apparently,
anywhere you go, anytime you go to a foreign country, when you try to speak their language and they hear your accent, immediately they answer back in your own language. And I don't understand. The point of it is you're trying to learn.
I think so.
Funny, so Scandinavia, everybody speaks perfect American English.
Yeah.
Whether you're old or young, everybody speaks it. But you go to Germany, I've got a niece who her English is shocking. It's so bad. Yeah, her older brother is really, really fluent in English, and a lot of my family members are quite fluent in English. Some not so much. The older people aren't. But it depends on, so I learned this, if the country that you're living in, if their American television has subtitles or it's dubbed over. And in Germany, everything is dubbed over.
Yeah.
In Scandinavia, American programs and films have subtitles. And so it's easier for people to pick up the English language that way.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to having voiceover actors just redoing it for you.
Yeah, apparently that's how Tam said she learned English, was listening to, English music, English speaking music, as well as, I guess she'd been taking English since she was in like 7th grade or something. And she told me that one of the reasons that people will speak English to me is because they get a chance to finally use it. So they do. I try to approach in German, and they hear that I'm trying. So I think then they throw me the life preserver of being like, okay, you tried, we appreciate it, I'll speak English to you.
I mean, I think it's a lot for the same for me just speaking English in England. People think, well, he's trying.
What do you expect?
Yeah, I can't judge me on my accent. Yeah.
I can.
Before we get back to your buddies with Jim Jeffries, are you?
Yeah. Actually, he played the guitar solo on my song Vice Town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did some lead guitar work, and I imagine that when I get to England, we'll probably be doing some work together.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, I've never actually met him. We've been in very close circles, and a lot of because he tends to go out to Spain quite a lot, out to Barcelona, and does a lot with them guys out there. And we're due to go there. We played a big festival in France going back 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago. It was the last festival last gig I think Crazy Kevin ever did, because he
yeah.
It was quite unbelievable, really. But we met a lot of the Spanish guys there, and they talked a lot about Jim there. We was meant to go out to Barcelona, but it never quite happened. But I think he lives in Portsmouth, does he? He's from Portsmouth.
Yeah. He had the Jim Jeffries Emporium too. He had a shop.
I think I'll pass one day.
Yeah, I think probably I'll eventually get him on here, and we'll see what kind of craziness we can end up talking.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor then.
Oh, yeah. That's an absolute fact.
10-minute show.
Yeah, you just see this series of jump cuts, and you'd be like, I wonder why everything's so choppy. Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you two.
Oh, and
sure, man.
Was there anything that you wanted to kind of touch base on? I know you wanted me to send over some music.
Yeah, definitely going to get some links from you to put them in the description. If you want to give any audio plugs right now, is definitely the time.
Oh, I mean, we've got our biggest hits so far are on YouTube, aren't they? The videos we recorded with Botflix.
Yeah.
a couple of songs on there.
Yeah, Isolation Blues.
Isolation Blues,
which we wrote during the lockdown. The name kind of speaks for itself. A lot of people wrote a lot of stuff on lockdown.
Ironically, could have been called Drunk Sitting Around in Your Pants, couldn't it, really?
Blues.
And
what's a website they can find you at?
So you can mainly find us on any of the socials under Lady Luck Lexy and the Riverside Boys. The website is ladylucklexy.com, and that has links to everything else. It's via Wix site. Linktree is Lady Luck Lexy, and you'll find everything on there with TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that.
Telegram.
Yeah. I like receiving things in the post.
Everybody likes a good unboxing video.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
And the other video that's quite popular is "I'm on Fire," which was released as well as we haven't released Isolation Blues yet.
No,
we shot a music video for it. We've got a great version of it at Viva Las Vegas 25 when we played at Reverend Martini's All Night Jumpin' Showcase. It was really, really good.
Yes.
Pretty proud of that song. It's more of a bopper blues, and it's kind of going into the direction that we're kind of leading off to now. So this was one of the issues, again, with some of the female-fronted bands, is they were very, I want to say bubblegum sounding, if that makes any sense.
Understandable.
The girls wore swing dresses, and something I'd heard from quite a few people, and I agree and I disagree with some of what they said, is that the female singers all sing the same stuff. Well, I'm in two minds about that, because I do sing a bit of Wanda Jackson, I do sing a bit of Laura Collins, I do sing a bit of Janice Martin. I also sing a bit of Elvis, and I sing a bit of Johnny Burnett, and I sing a bit of Gene Vincent. Not a lot of female singers will do the latter. They do a lot of the poppy bubblegum stuff. And then when we started writing material, I always wanted to go above and beyond what female singers were doing. And I remember with my old band, I did a gig at the Brent Boys Club. And somebody said to me, somebody had actually written, doing covers of stuff that female singers don't normally do. And the main thing I did was Temptation Baby by Gene Vincent, which is my favorite song by him. It was produced by Joe Meek, which again was a very different sound to begin with. And we somehow transferred that from a sort of 1960s sound to a 50s rockabilly sound. And I always wanted to be a little bit different in what I was doing with the band. So as we started writing, a lot of the stuff that we've written, it can be categorized, but not quite classified as any one defining genre. So the first song that we wrote collectively as a band was Roulette Baby, which we've seen people jive to, we've seen people bop to. So it depends on which side of the fence you're sitting on, boppers or jivers. So it can be either one of those. I'm on Fire was a song I was really, really proud of writing. And I think, I take that back. The first song we ever wrote was I Want a Man in a Rockabilly Band. And that had to do with being catcalled in the streets. I thought, this is just really annoying. Really, really annoying.
I know, it's hard work, especially for me.
No.
I'm not getting whistled out.
At my age, I just think, really? Honestly. And it was like guys in these work vans who were like skinny and shirtless with those brown stains hanging off the sides of their corners of their mouth because they had to smoke those brown roll-up cigarettes.
Oh.
And, yeah. And a lot of that. And so that was the first song that I actually had a concept for to write. And that was more of a jivey kind of song, very rockabilly sounding. And then we did Isolation Blues.
Yeah.
I'm on Fire is a song that I wrote in regard to a lot of things, Me Too movement, which I felt very strongly about. I sometimes think it was taken for granted a little bit too much. However, it also reflects on the misogyny in this music industry. Unless you are sexualized as a performer in the pop world, you're okay. One thing I learned, and as I getting back to female artists looking the same way, sounding the same way, having any old band doing any old cover, end result is in the UK, anytime there's a music festival, you're lucky to get one female artist, whether she's a DJ or a lead singer in a band. And if you do get a singer, the bottom of the billing, never ever the top, unless somebody from Wild Records, because Wild pays for that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are a musician who's been working hard, a female musician who's been working hard as a musician, as a singer, as a songwriter, nobody cares. So I'm on Fire is very much based on women's experiences in the music industry. If you're not that stereotype of what you should be according to everybody else in society,
and that's going to be one of the ones on the YouTube. So we'll be able to pass a link on for that one.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see that one as well. And I'm so proud of writing that song. We did it in a minor key also,
Mm-hmm.
And it reflected the moodiness of it, but also the anger that I feel sometimes when I see these music events popping up and there's not a single female act on them. I think, why is that? There's so many great female singers in the world. How come there's none on this event? I'm campaigning for change for that. Obviously, there's not as many female bands as there are male bands, but there are equally as amount of great female singers as there are female or male bands. I'll be honest, a lot of stuff that you kind of see locally, the same covers bands do the same old stuff all the time. Anytime a woman does it, they do the same thing all the time. But nobody mentions it about the male bands.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says that about the male bands.
But we do well. We do our best. We do our best to do our stuff.
We do our best, and we do better outside the UK than we do within the UK.
Yes, this is true. So, I think this coming year we've got probably more gigs across the world than we have actually in the UK actually. Yeah. So I don't mind that though, because I like travelling. I like going on planes, so it's good for me.
Yeah, we do like to travel.
One thing that I'm excited about with having this show is getting to actually be able to feature more female-oriented music. There'll be some interviews coming up with some very non-stereotypical musicians, and I'm so excited to also, have another non-stereotypical lady-fronted band on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thankful for you for having us.
And I'll have to send you some of my previous work from an age long ago, just to show you that, I've been around a while. I think one of the other things that we battled with as a band, with me being in the forefront, is I only started doing rock and roll about 11 years ago. Before then, I had a career in an entirely different music scene. I ran a record label, a recording studio, and I had a lot of people think I just crawled out of the woodwork to do this, and that I was inexperienced, and a lot of people thought I was much younger than I was. And I remember when we recorded our first EP, and although it was all covers, I said, listen, we're going to do it in one day. We're going to rehearse, take some weeks and weeks, and then we're going to record everything in one day. 5 songs on an EP.
Nice.
It doesn't take long to do.
If you know your stuff, no, it doesn't.
Oh, and so we had this very, very young drummer, maybe about 24, 25, maybe about that, I said, the Beatles recorded 3 songs a day. That was their job. He said, we're not the Beatles. I will record 1 song in 5 days, not 5 songs in 1 day.
Yes, not going to work.
And again, I think he just assumed I was some stupid young girl who knew nothing, not understanding the background I actually had.
Or even worse, not understanding the Mexican and German. That's the thing you've got to be most worried about.
You have anger and spice all in one.
Yep.
it's this is the other thing that I battle as well, is, you know, I'm not young by any means, and I worked in the industry for a really, really long time. I just worked in a different style of music, but music is music no matter how you look at it. And I did struggle a lot in the rock and roll scene, and there's just a big misogynistic prejudice in the UK against female performers, which it needs to change. It really needs to change. And, you know, people say things like, well, you've got this performer and that performer, and they're really famous and they're doing this and that. Yeah, because they're very sexualized when you see them on screen. And I've got no issues with sexuality, but you don't always have to get all your bits out to sell a record.
I understand.
There's so much more to it.
I understand.
And it's a bonus if you could do it. Not when you're coming up to 50. It's not so nice looking.
And no one wants to see me with my pants off either. So we're like,
well, that's why there's bands that are noticed because they know how to play. And those are bands that put good stuff out continually, and they build a niche audience over 20 years. And I think that's the best that you can ask for, because otherwise they're going to want to control the way you look, the way you sound, and everything the moment that you sign that big old piece of paper. So I think that you're doing it the right way. And I think you should continue doing what you're doing. I love what you're doing, and thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you for having us. Appreciate that.
We look forward to catching up in real life one time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to leave a lot on the cutting room floor.
Leave it all in. It's all good.
It's 2023. Just keep an open mind. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right. Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Cheers, man. Thank you.
All right. That'll be all for today. Remember, peace, love throughout the world, and don't forget to rock and roll.